Yeah, we're live. Hi, guys. Yeah, there it is, down there.
Was likening last day's events to a woman in labor. As the labor progresses, welcome to the Watchman channel. This channel is all about world news and Bible prophecy, pointing to the soon return of the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I am asking that if you can, to please help to financially support this ministry. If you feel led to pledge any amount of money, it would be extremely helpful and greatly appreciated.
Hey,
There is
Diane.
a
Good to
PayPal
see you.
link in the description box and in
I'll
the
turn up a
comment
bit.
below. You can also donate using Cash App. My cash tag is $Watchman1963. Thank you all so much for your prayers and support. God bless. Jesus said, as a sign of his coming and the end of the age, there would be an increase in deception, false Christs who will deceive many, wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilences, earthquakes, Christian persecution, apostasy, false prophets, and lawlessness, causing the love of many to grow cold. Jesus said all these signs would come like birth pains. Jesus was likening last day's events to a woman in labor. As the labor progresses, the pains increase in both frequency and intensity until the baby finally.
Diane, I'm looking forward to seeing what Mike says about the Pope's death. Because remember when King Charles was made king, he said things couldn't happen until a king was in position. So I can't wait to see what he's got to say.
Comes. As we get closer to Jesus' return, all the signs he gave us as a sign of his coming and the end of the age will become more frequent and more intense. All of these signs are manifesting around the world in our time.
To one of the conflicts abroad, the president is taking a tough line with Ukraine, accusing President Zelensky of undermining talks for a ceasefire with Russia. Vice President J.D. Vance says Russia and Ukraine need to say yes to an American peace proposal or the U.S. will walk away. Zelensky objects to giving up territory to Russia under the plan, and the war isn't stopping. Overnight, Russia launched a deadly new attack on Ukraine's capital.
Russia killed Ukrainian civilians again last night, hitting residential areas, according to Ukrainian officials. At least 9 people lost their lives. Diplomacy won't work here, said Oksana Bilazir. There simply aren't words to express what a monster Vladimir Putin is. But President Trump said yesterday that he's
Hey, Bill, good to see you, mate.
sides.
I have no favorites. I don't want to have any favorites. I want to have a deal done.
In the more than 3 years since Putin started this war, the US has supported Ukraine with over $100 billion in aid. But now the White House says the president...
$100 billion in aid, and look at the homeless in America. That is absolutely criminal.
His patience is wearing thin as he pushes a peace plan that reportedly involves excluding Ukraine from NATO membership, freezing the fighting close to the current front line, and recognizing Crimea as part of Russia. The Russians seized Crimea by force the first time Putin invaded in 2014.
Good.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says officially recognizing Russia's occupation would be against his country's constitution. In February, the US briefly suspended military aid to Ukraine after this fiery meeting at the White House.
You don't have the cards right now.
The fear in Ukraine is that if President Trump doesn't get what he wants, the US could permanently cut off its help. This morning, President Trump posted on social media that he's, quote, not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv, calling on Vladimir Putin to stop. But some fear that rewarding Putin with territory in a potential peace deal could encourage him to invade Ukraine again in the future.
Luke 21:25. And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. One of the many signs we are living in the last days, right before the return of Jesus Christ.
Well, Di, that looks ominous, doesn't it?
his nations will be in a state of perplexity or uncertainty over what to do in a difficult situation. This is exactly what is happening
Nah, Phil, we're waiting for the plagues to be released. We know they're coming.
in our world today.
Funerals for the victims of an attack that's thrown the region's already fractured politics into total disarray. The attack on the tourist town of Pahalgam, nestled in the Himalayas, has sparked outrage across India.
It's just the measles. They've been plugging that here too, chickenpox and measles.
The entire country is angry and wants to see revenge. Like our
When we were kids, we caught the measles on purpose so you could stay home from school for 2 weeks.
Prime Minister retaliated in the past, we want the attackers to be found and shot.
Whoever carried out the attack has committed a grave crime. Those who executed the attack will not be spared. We stand with our country.
A separatist group which calls itself the Kashmir Resistance or the Resistance Front has claimed responsibility for the worst assault on civilians in a region in nearly 2 decades. India has long accused Pakistan of supporting separatist fighters in the region. Responding to the attack, New Delhi announced the closure of a key border crossing with Pakistan and suspended a crucial treaty that allowed the sharing of river waters between the 2 countries. India has also suspended a number of visas and drastically scaled back diplomatic ties.
The defense, military, naval, and air advisors in the Pakistani High Commission in New Delhi are declared persona non grata. They have a week to leave India. India will be withdrawing its own defense, navy, and air advisors from the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. These posts in the respective high commissions are deemed annulled.
Pakistan has expressed condolences for the victims and says its National Security Council, the country's highest military and security body, will meet to formulate a response.
This is a conflict that is 80 plus years in the making. It flares up time to time, and this flare up, unfortunately, while never wanted, was probably not entirely surprising either.
Tourists are now fleeing the town in droves.
We are terrified. We want to reach our home as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Hey,
bro, it's good to see you, bro.
Attack in a region in dire need of peace.
Is global chaos the new normal? As anyone can plainly see, the world is in a state of decay, moral, economic, political, every way possible. People are saying the world is out of control and looking for someone, anyone, to rescue the planet. Soon, very soon, a leader will appear on the horizon that appears to have all the answers, to calm the oceans, to bring peace to all the nations. His title will be the Antichrist, and he will be welcomed by millions of those on earth not taken with the rapture. Unfortunately, his true identity will be known soon to those left behind, but his true intentions are death, destruction, and control. So yes, global chaos is the new normal until the Lord Jesus Christ comes at the end of the Antichrist's 7-year reign of terror and establishes true peace on earth. It seems like a good time for Satan to present the lawless one to the world. 2 Thessalonians 2, 7 through 12. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved.
Hey, Gigabyte, good to see you.
And for this reason, God will send them strong delusion, that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. When most people think of end times Bible prophecy, they think of wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes, pestilences, 666, mark of the beast.
Yeah, boss, I'm doing Paul Begley Mike from around the world. Has he got someone interesting on now?
And the Antichrist. They think of massive disasters and a new totalitarian global order consisting of a one world government, a one world religion, and a one world monetary system. The Bible also talks about the nature of mankind in the last days, as we read in 2 Timothy.
So I saw something this morning about plasma rain or something. There's plasma breaks and plasma's coming through the tears. I don't know what it said. It said something about plasma and rain, though.
3:1-5. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty.
Wow, die built on top of a tectonic plate. That's not good.
Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And from such people, turn away. It's perilous to live in a world where people's greatest love is the love of self. Ungodly pride makes humans dangerous, makes them easily offended and quick to vengeance. When brutality becomes the norm, society grows more perilous. When people hold truth in low regard, slander becomes widespread, and widespread slander erodes all.
Yeah, Gigabyte. The Pope died 3 days ago.
All systems of justice. 2 Timothy 3:1-5 illustrates end time perils by pointing to individual human selfishness, war, deception, and other signs of the end of the age have always existed in human beings. The last days prophecies refer to a dramatic increase in all these matters as we get closer to the Lord's coming. War, deception, lack of self-control, and blasphemy will grow worse. People will become even more headstrong and haughty, prouder and more selfish. There is no doubt we are living in the last days right before Jesus returns, as all the characteristics in 2 Timothy have taken hold and are right now being cultivated in human hearts, especially by our educational system and in entertainment.
Now with a Minecraft movie. The movie based on a popular video game is the highest grossing film of the year, and now the director's defending its viral social media trend.
And it's about these two words, chicken jockey, everybody. Fans going crazy when Jack Black says the line in the movie, but some theater owners are not happy about what's going on, and now the film's director is speaking out and probably not helping matters at all.
Chicken jockey!
This morning, many theater owners and goers are growing increasingly concerned about what happens after these two words are uttered. Sending Minecraft movie fans into a screaming, popcorn throwing, soda spilling frenzy.
There was confetti cannons being blown off.
Look at that, not a beer amongst them. They're all drinking soda.
And then a live chicken was in our theater.
Yes, a real-life chicken brought into this theater in Provo, Utah by a student. He and the chicken were later escorted out of the theater. So what exactly is a chicken jockey? Well, according to the Minecraft dictionary, it's a child zombie who rides on a chicken, of course, and it's become one of the hottest social media trends in the world, causing police to occasionally escort unruly teens to the parking lot of theaters.
Oh, they're going to tie the chickens to their feet.
They want to fight the chicken?
Some theaters are now issuing disclaimers for the #1 movie in the country saying, please know that those who disrupt our guests and damage our theaters will be escorted out immediately by police. We will press charges for any damage to our property. And now the director is speaking out about that viral chicken jockey trend, saying he sees no problem with his film's fan base having a passion for poultry. Jared Haas telling Entertainment Weekly, quote, "It's weird when you're having too much fun and the cops get called. I've seen so many funny videos."
Mate, you can't go damaging these theaters. These guys are red hot.
I'm just glad people are making memories with their friends and families.
Remember this? It's the classic TV commercial for Kool-Aid, and now it's being copied in a destructive social media challenge. It's being called the Kool-Aid Man Challenge. Ben Helwa lives on Staten Island, New York, and is the latest homeowner to have his property vandalized. They run full speed into your fence. They take the whole fence down.
Apparently, this challenge went viral a few years ago.
Yeah, it's true.
And I didn't really know that people were still actively doing it.
He didn't know what caused the damage until he screened surveillance video taken from across the street. It shows 3 youngsters running right through the fence. You can see they're getting themselves ready, right? They're pumping each other up. You can see the one kid actually runs ahead and gets his phone out. He's like, oh, I gotta film this.
Yeah.
Right? Boom. As you can see, they really did a number on his fence. The damage is extensive, and the whole thing might need to be replaced. But as for now, he's got plywood and duct tape keeping it together. We found lots of examples of knucklehead teens charging full speed into fences. These youngsters ran into the fence in unison, resulting in thousands of dollars in damages.
Throughout the spring break season, Panama City Beach Police handing out 3,000 traffic citations and also making about 800 arrests. Officials have gone to great lengths to try and curb the violence. This year, the city issuing a curfew. 2 years ago, canines were deployed to reduce drug usage. Police have also heavily relied on surveillance cameras in an attempt to keep partygoers under control.
Wow, that sounds like it's wild in the States. Wow.
3 years ago, spring breakers were so ruckus, police closed 2 miles of city streets. Well, now Panama City Beach isn't alone trying to limit spring break chaos. Here now, the mayor of Panama City Beach, Stuart Tedimer. Where do you stand on this? The police chief clearly says he's done.
This is a spiritual problem, in my opinion.
Elaborate on that. Why do you believe that this is spiritual in nature?
A lot of these kids are from rough backgrounds, the kids who are causing the public safety incidents. And
so I'm thinking it was probably a sacrifice, if anything. Same as the Queen Elizabeth, she was a sacrifice.
Instead of turning to the Lord, they're turning to violence. And so it's a spiritual problem. There's a breakdown, and they need help in finding God so that they don't turn to these alternative means of expressing themselves.
I wonder how much further humans can fall before Jesus returns. Revelation 13, 4-8 says that at one point in the future, the world will not only follow, but also actually worship the Antichrist. He will at first support the Christless religions of the world, they which have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof. We are not quite there yet. Satan's plan for the Antichrist is held back by the special presence of the Holy Spirit that began at Pentecost. That restraint will be removed when the church is removed at the rapture. In the meantime, evil men and impostors will grow worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. These are the
There's a lot being released since the Pope died. A lot of people on the net talking now. Very interesting.
end times the Bible warned us about. It is pertinent to be walking in the security of God's will, plan, and purpose for our lives, to live close to Him and according to His word. James 4, 7, and 8. Therefore, submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Psalm 9.
Okay, boss.
The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God.
The wildfire emergency in New Jersey at this hour, triggering air quality alerts all the way into New York City and Long Island for tonight and
Have you here, Mike? Come on, will you give me a heads up, please?
tomorrow. Look at the images tonight. More than 12,000 acres already burning, thousands forced to evacuate at this hour. The power's still out, but many more.
Tonight, a state of emergency in southern New Jersey. An explosive wildfire tripling in size in less than 24 hours.
This could very well end up being the largest wildfire in New Jersey in 20 years.
The Jones Road fire reported around 9:45 Tuesday morning, about 90 miles.
You remember Steve Cioccolani said the red horse is riding and it's going to cause a lot of fires and wars. And he seems to be right about the fires.
Now south of New York City in Barnegat Township, quickly spreading to neighboring communities.
Thanks, Guy.
Volunteer firefighter Mike Berger shooting this video on the scene. The flames jumping the Garden State Parkway during rush hour. Officials forced to shut it down for miles overnight. This commercial building left in ruins, and authorities cutting power to some 25,000 homes and businesses.
This fire right now is staying low to the ground. It's burning down in the brush. These are all the pine barrens down here, so there's plenty of fuel to make this fire burn.
3,000 people forced to flee.
The authorities were knocking on everyone's door, letting us know to evacuate.
Yanira Luna, one of many.
3,000 evacuate. Where do they go to?
Making use of emergency shelters. In just over a day, the Jones Road fire destroying 12,500 acres.
Turning out to a wildfire that has now burned more than 13,000 acres in southern New Jersey. Firefighters are making progress, however, with containment now up to 50%, but officials warn
Oh, good. 45 minutes
the
in.
biggest
Vast.
wildfire in decades.
It's way bigger than I thought.
A growing wildfire in southern New Jersey, sending plumes of smoke above neighborhoods in Ocean County, has left some people who live there on edge, including Amy Zettel, who was allowed back home after an earlier evacuation order.
It's a nerve-wracking feeling. It's unsettling just because we could go back home. I didn't even put any of my stuff back in the house. It's like in the garage in bags, just in case.
While firefighters are finally starting to get control of the blaze that quadrupled in size in the span of 24 hours, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection says it could be the worst wildfire in 20 years.
Our objective is to starve the fire so that when the fire arrives into the area, there's nothing left.
Diane, so much has ramped up since Trump's been in power. It's ramped. It's like 3 times more hectic now than it was back then. And every day there's something more hectic showing up. Wow, we are really in the last 7 years. So fascinating.
The burn.
Oh, it's the building on fire. Multiple structures are in the path of the fire, which blackened and almost completely burned this home while reducing this small business to rubble.
You think you know what you're going to walk into until you walk into it, and there's not one thing that survived. It's pure devastation. This is a complete start over.
Jesus said a sign of his return would be more frequent and more intense weather, as we read in Matthew 24, 7 and 8. And there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Pestilence is the Greek word moimus, which means a plague. Definition of a plague is any large-scale calamity, especially when thought to be sent by God. God has used plagues in the form of extreme weather in the past and will again in the future. The 7th plague on Egypt was hail. Don't forget about the famine in Joseph's time. One of the biggest is the flood in the book of Genesis. In the future, during the 7-year tribulation, God will once again use extreme weather in the form of pestilence as judgment. In Revelation 16:21, God uses hailstones weighing 100 pounds each, and great hail from heaven fell upon men, each hailstone about the weight of a talent. Men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, since that plague was exceedingly great. In Revelation 16:8 and 9, God uses scorching heat. Then the 4th angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and power was given to him to scorch men with fire, and men were scorched with great heat. And they blasphemed the name of God, who has power over these plagues, and they did not repent and give him glory. So when Jesus Christ warns us that just before his second coming, there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places, you had better believe that these occurrences are a sign from God and that he is about to intervene. Psalm 18:7. Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations of the hills also quaked and were shaken, because he was angry.
A shocking moment was caught on camera today in Istanbul, when a 6.2 magnitude earthquake and dozens of aftershocks shook the city. People fled to the streets for safety. One man jumped from a building and landed on the roof of a parked car. A surveillance camera caught the impact. Surprisingly, the man survived the fall. He can be
You'd be spewing if it was your car, though, wouldn't you?
seen getting off the vehicle, but hopping and limping on one leg, suggesting that he may have been injured. A witness provided an arm to help the man. It happened in the Ataşehir district of Turkey's largest city. The man was one of more than 150 people who were injured in the quake. Many of those injuries reportedly happened in a similar fashion, from people jumping to flee buildings.
Wow.
While the tremors caused structures
No
to sway and
way.
shake, there was only one collapse reported. Schools will be closed the rest of the week to be used as safe spaces, and thankfully there have been no fatalities.
As a sign of his coming and the end of the age, Jesus said there would be earthquakes in various places, as we read in Mark 13:8. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be earthquakes in various places, and there will be famines and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows. John 15:18 through 20. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you're not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you.
Okay, this guy basically does the same stick every day. So I won't be using him again unless he's got something important to say.
Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you.
President Trump's task force on anti-Christian bias is taking action to protect religious freedom in America. This week, Attorney General Pam Bondi held a news conference alongside some other cabinet members to highlight the problem and the efforts underway to solve them.
Attorney General Pam Bondi hosted her first anti-Christian bias task force meeting at the Justice Department. She focused on efforts that are currently underway to end the bias throughout the federal government. Members of the task force include...
I think they're setting us up to get the blame. That's why they're bringing Christians into it. They're going to blame us, I bet you.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and other members of the cabinet, also individuals who have been impacted by anti-Christian bias. Attorney General Bondi says they are focused on identifying unlawful anti-Christian policies, practices, or conduct taking place in government.
As President Trump has stated, the Biden administration engaged in an egregious pattern of targeting peaceful Christians while ignoring violent anti-Christian offenses.
Some of the anti-Christian bias offenses include arrest of Christians peacefully protesting outside abortion clinics. Bondi says the FBI even spied on some Catholic churches. Also, she cited President Biden declaring last Easter as a day of transgender visibility. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says all forms of bias against any religion must be stopped.
Supporting the free expression of faith is not just a constitutional principle. It is something that all forms of civil government should be encouraging. At its core, the executive order we're here to talk about today affirms a fundamental truth. Every individual has the freedom to choose their religious faith. And once made, that choice should never be subject to discrimination or bias from our government.
We're standing up for a persecuted Christian and so many Christians that have been persecuted all over the world. So horrible what's happened. And defending religious liberty. We had nobody fighting for our Christians in other parts of the world that were being so incredibly destroyed, killed.
Attorney General Bondi acknowledges the mission of the task force on anti-Christian bias is daunting, but necessary in order to protect the inalienable rights of every American to worship God free of any discrimination.
Yep. The Christian persecution the church is suffering right now, awful as it is, will only get worse. The Bible tells us in the last days, right before Jesus returns, the greatest political leader in the history of mankind will take the world stage. He will launch a military campaign.
Boss, Trump is only getting away with that comb over for a couple of more months. He's run out of hair. He's got it combed in so many different directions. It looks like an ice cream cone.
That will result in his acquiring authority over all peoples of the earth, as we read in Revelation 13:7 and 8. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of
he
life
did say that,
from
Diane.
the foundation of the world. His empire will be the most extensive in all of history, encompassing the entire world, and his rule will be the most demonic the world has ever experienced. He will appear to be the savior of the world, but as he consolidates his power, his true nature will be revealed. He will emerge as a Satan-possessed and empowered person who hates God and is determined to annihilate Christianity. His method of eliminating Christians will be by beheading, as we read in Revelation 24. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. For this reason, He is identified in Scripture as the Antichrist, as we read in 1 John 2:18. Little children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come, by which we know that it is the last hour. The signs of Jesus' soon return are so strong now, and the evidence is so clear, that any person willing to accept the truth can see that the end of the world, as we know it, is near. For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For all have sinned, and fall short of the glory of God. But God demonstrates his own love toward us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. That if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus, and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. These are the ABCs of salvation. A, admit that you're a sinner. B, believe in your heart that Jesus Christ died for your sins, was buried, and God raised him from the dead. C, call upon the name of the Lord, and you will be saved. Jesus.
Okay, that was over.
Oh, that would be a look. Yeah. Yeah.
200,000 visas were issued by the Labor government just in February. That's 200,000 too many. Our hospitals, roads and schools just can't take it.
Evidence that this ancient prophecy is playing out right. As soon as Pope Francis entered the church, everyone was shocked because of the prophecy of one very important saint, Saint Malachi. Now, before you dismiss this as just another prediction, what if I told you that there's a lot of new evidence that this ancient prophecy is playing out right now? Sounds eerie, right? So let's understand what the prophecy is all about, what has been predicted, and how accurate it is. Now, the current Pope of the Catholic Church, who goes by the name Pope Francis, raised quite a stir among prophecy enthusiasts. They are claiming that St. Malachi's vision pointed straight at this year, dubbing this new Pope as Peter the Roman, the final piece of the prophetic puzzle. Pope Francis, originally known as Jorge Maria Bergoglio from Argentina, has raised questions. Despite his chosen name, some believers argue that hidden within his birth name is a connection to Peter. And get this, they're also making a case that he's a true Roman because his family has Italian roots, even though he's from Argentina. And this is where it starts to get really interesting. Let's travel back in time to figure out where this prophecy comes from. The prophecy of the popes is like a list of 112 mysterious sayings in Latin.
In the whole of the Pope's reign, no one picked up the Gog in Bergoglio. No one picked it up bar me. I'm the only one that picked that up.
That tries to tell who the Catholic popes will be, starting with Celestine II. It showed up in 1595, introduced by a monk named Arnold Wyan. He claimed that it came from visions of Saint Malachi, who was an archbishop in the 12th century. The story goes like this. Malachi supposedly had a vision during a trip to Rome that revealed the names of every pope, 112 in total, from his time until the end of days. Think of it like a series of popes, and we're now reaching the last chapter.
Yeah.
He wrote down these visions in mysterious verses, sealed them in Vatican's secret archives, and they remained hidden for centuries. Then along came Arnold Wyan, who uncovered this ancient manuscript just in time for a holy conclave in the 16th century. Of all the ancient prophecies in the Roman Catholic Church, Saint Malachi's prophecy stands out as one of the most discussed subjects that has captivated the minds of many historians. While some people question if his predictions are for real, others find them super interesting and surprisingly accurate. And here is
Diane, I put the fish hat on sideways just to be different.
Where you might want to pay very close attention. According to him, the 112th Pope would be the last one. His words
You
get
rabbit
intense, predicting a tough time.
Hey,
for the
Shorty,
Holy
good to
Roman
see
Church.
you.
His prophecy for this year ominously states, in the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep through many tribulations. And when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. So, are we nearing the climax of Saint Malachi's prophecy?
Yep.
Well, it sure appears so. But the million-dollar question is, why is the reign of Pope Francis supposed to end? Now, this is where it gets really shocking. Okay, so let me fill you in. He's the first Jesuit Pope, taking on the role on March 13th, 2013. However, Pope Francis is not without controversy. He holds a unique position as one of the most controversial bishops of Rome in the history of the Roman Catholic Church. Why, you ask? Since he took the throne, he's been dealing with a lot of messy stuff in the church. One big issue was the scandal of clergy sexually abusing children and the church covering it up. Not good. But this scandal came into the spotlight in a big way in 2018 when a report came out about abuse in Pennsylvania. Plus, he had upset some people with his ideas. He wrote a book called Amoris Laetitia, and that got him in hot water. It's about letting people who got married, then divorced, and married again have Holy Communion. But not everyone in the church agrees with that. On August 11th, 2017, a bunch of 40 Catholic clergy and scholars sent a 25-page letter, basically a big complaint to Pope Francis. They accused him of spreading ideas that go against the core beliefs of the church. They said his words in a document called Amoris Laetitia and other stuff he said and did.
Okay, praise for your fire, Shawnee.
Marriage, moral life, and the sacraments. And it didn't stop there. On May 18th, 2018, CNN reported that a bunch of bishops in Chile quit their jobs over a scandal involving sexual abuse. It was a big deal and added.
Do you love your fire but can't stand all the smoke and the mess? Independent tests prove SmartBurn will optimize the efficiency of your
to the troubles the church was already facing. Now let's rewind a bit to October 19th, 2013, and you might want to listen closely here. A Catholic bishop named Bernard Fellet, who is more of a traditionalist, gave a warning. He said that Pope Francis was causing the church to decline and might be signaling the start of something really bad, like the age of the Antichrist. That's a pretty serious warning, don't you think? But let's not forget the other side of the coin. People really like Pope Francis because he's nice, he cares about the poor, and he talks to people from different religions. He also cares about the
poor as he sits in his golden churches. What a joke.
Environment, and a lot of people around the world like him. A World Values Survey from February 2014 showed that many people think he brings people together in a good way. But some people in the Catholic Church don't agree with some things he teaches, so there's a bit of disagreement. But hold on, one of the most devastating blows came in the form of an 11-page letter which hit the scene on August 25th, 2018. This letter was from Archbishop Carlo Maria Viganò, who used to be the Pope Nuncio to the United States. In this letter, Archbishop Viganò accused Pope Francis of being neglectful in his responsibilities to the Church, specifically concerning a guy named Theodore McCarrick. The accusation was that, despite knowing about sexual abuse allegations against McCarrick, both the Vatican and Pope Francis didn't take proper action. Moreover,
Shawnee, it's not measles or chickenpox, is it?
The letter didn't hold back. It even called for him to step down from his role as Pope. And here we are, fast forward to today. The drama around Pope Francis doesn't just stay in the Vatican City. It's spilled all over the internet and YouTube. People are buzzing with charges and accusations, and it's becoming increasingly evident. It's not just regular guys on the internet. Priests, bishops, cardinals, and lay scholars are becoming vocal critics of the Pope. The church is divided, with some people, especially from conservative groups and news outlets like Church Militant and the Remnant TV, strongly disagreeing with Francis and his more modern ideas. Now, you might be wondering, do any of these crises and accusations have anything to do with Saint Malachi's prophecy? Well, that's an excellent question, and this is where it gets even more shocking. Saint Malachi's prophecy, as we've explored, contains cryptic descriptions of the popes. Some guys have matched these descriptions to the popes who came before Pope Francis with surprising accuracy. So when we take a look at the current challenges and controversies, it makes you wonder if Pope Francis could indeed be the last pope as foretold by Saint Malachi. So what we conclude is that Saint Malachi's predictions are taken very seriously. In fact, back in 1958, just before the conclave that elected Pope John XXIII, Cardinal Spellman of New York went all out. He rented a boat, filled it with sheep, and sailed up and down the Tiber River. Why? To prove a point, that he was the shepherd and sailor, as predicted in the prophecies. Now, let's get back to the prophecy about the 111th Pope, Pope Benedict. It said, Gloria Olivae, which translates to the glory of the olive. Many people argue that this makes St. Malachi's prophecies pretty inaccurate. According to the prophecy, the next and final pope should be Peter Romanus, and here's where it gets really interesting. Some of these prophecies are eerily on the mark. Take Pope Urban VIII, for instance. His prophecy was Lilium et Rosa, which means the lily and the rose. He happens to be from Florence, and guess what's on the arms of Florence? An Irish flower, which looks just like a lily. Then there's Pope John Paul II, whose prophecy was De labore solis, meaning of the eclipse of the sun. Now, he was born on May 18th, 1920, right during the solar eclipse. Talk about uncanny. And history also tells us similar, or even worse, crises have perpetually taken place in the church. The church's past is filled with scandals, some of which would make your jaw drop. We're talking about bloodshed, mobs running riot, corruption at its worst, sexual misconduct, and even the buying and selling of papal power. It's not a pretty picture. Take, for example, Pope Benedict IX. He was so notorious for his promiscuous behavior that Saint Peter Damian called him a demon from hell in the disguise of a priest. That's a pretty damning assessment, wouldn't you say? Then there's Pope Alexander VI, who openly admitted to having several children with his mistresses. That's a far cry from the image of a pious pope. But wait, there's more. Pope John VII, Pope Stephen VI, Pope Leo V, Pope John VIII, each of them faced their own unique issues during their time as pope. Scandals, power struggles, you name it. But why all the fuss about these prophecies? Some wonder if St. Malachi might have been talking about something much bigger than just the line of popes. Could he have been hinting at an apocalyptic event like the one described in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10? But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. Well, only God knows for sure.
Cafe quality coffee is one touch away with a DeLonghi automatic machine. Simply touch and enjoy. Barista quality coffee with one touch by DeLonghi.
Stupid cups.
NRMA Insurance is proud to announce that we now offer home loans.
Usual, talking about the same wars, the same utility bills, and then, without any fanfare, the announcement. The Pope died this morning. The Vatican confirms. Silence. No tears, no emotion. Just a strange tension in my throat. I couldn't understand. To me, the church had become a circus. Scandals, wealth, slogans about love and inclusion, but without a shred of truth. And that Pope, the one they weren't even naming, had always left me uneasy. He spoke well, loved the poor, but something felt off. A double energy, a public face and one I didn't know. I respected him and mistrusted him all at once. That night, I didn't sleep. No visions, just a strange presence in the room. The walls seemed to close in. The air was thick like smoke, but there was no fire. My hands trembled. I got up, walked barefoot on the cold floor, and without meaning to, I knelt. My knees hit the ground as if something had pushed me. No prepared prayer, just one word. Why? And then it happened. Time broke. The house disappeared. There were no walls, no windows, no floor beneath me. It was like being dragged out of my skin. I saw light. Not a warm light, but a sharp, blinding light, as if it cut through my soul. And then, suddenly, silence. A silence that screamed. A voice spoke, not to my ears, inside. Look. And I looked. I saw the earth from above, and in the middle of it, an empty throne. No one was sitting there. No one was speaking. Then a figure dressed in white appeared, walking toward the throne, but each step made the ground beneath him creak. It was him, the Pope, but not the Pope as they show on TV. He was a man burdened with weight, not visible, but real, as if he carried centuries of mistakes on his shoulders. Then I understood. He wasn't just dead. Something had changed. Something had broken in the heavens. A barrier, a cycle, a time. His death wasn't an event. It was a signal. And I, the former seer, the former believer, the convinced atheist, was about to see what no one would have wanted to see.
Okay, first time listening to this guy, so I don't know what he thinks.
The light gave me no rest. It wasn't sunlight. It was presence. I knew I wasn't dreaming, and it wasn't a mental projection either. I was inside something, and something was inside me. Every cell seemed to wake after years of sleep. My heart beat as if it had just remembered it was alive. Then came silence. Not the silence of empty rooms, but the kind that comes before an eternal word. And that word was, follow. I didn't see him arrive. He was just there. Jesus. There were no trumpets, no wings, no golden rays. Just a living figure, real, dressed in light that didn't burn, but penetrate.
I'll tell you something interesting about the pre-trib rapture and all that. During tribulation, God turns the sun up really high, and people will bake and really bag God and hate him for it. Well, does that mean there's Christians going to suffer that heat as well? Because we're not appointed to wrath, and that's part of the wrath. I'm guessing that's part of the wrath. So I wonder what happens there.
His eyes, I'll never forget them. They weren't human eyes, nor eyes of judgment. They were eyes that saw you before you spoke, before you thought. Eyes that knew every secret, every cowardice, every unspoken hope. And yet, they didn't condemn me. They drew me in. I will show you what has been hidden from the eyes of the world. That's what he said. And as soon as he spoke those words, the scene changed. I found myself suspended over
Okay,
a
Johnny,
city
God bless.
I recognized immediately. Rome. But it wasn't the tourist Rome. It was a spiritual Rome, a Rome of power and pain. I saw the dome of St. Peter's, but it wasn't white. It was shrouded in a gray mist, as if rotting from within. And then I saw him, the Pope, but I won't name him. It doesn't matter. He was the shepherd of our time. I saw him alone, in a secret room, kneeling, his head in his hands. He was trembling, not out of fear of men, but because he was struggling with God. His pontificate was the most difficult of the last 50 years, Jesus said. And in that moment, I understood. I saw golden halls where the destiny of souls was decided in diplomatic language. I saw cardinals laughing over crystal glasses, while outside, faith was fading like a candle in the wind.
Nah, I'm not going to listen to that anymore. He's pro-Catholic.
Tafe University used to be free in Australia. Trumpeter Patriots will make it free again.
Right narrative, right? When we think about entities, we got to think that entities want to deceive people into siding with them about something that is not the right narrative.
Plenty of liquid, Shawnee. You should know that.
Right? Okay. So I don't want to disappoint you in what I'm about to tell you. I want you to be well informed that there is a great deception going on. What I feel is going to happen is they're going to pull the carpet out from under us and tell us a whole bunch of stuff at one time, and then say that these are our gods.
No, he deserves his own show. Okay, here's what. This should get us up to Mike.
The Catholic Church wants to manage
the Roman Catholic Church wants to manage the AI revolution. They want to awaken the world to a new reality. By 2030, it's a reset. Almost all denominations are involved in this. It's prophesied by 2027 or in 2027 that the last pope will be Peter the Roman. It is interesting. We have 3 Peters as possibly being the next pope. Is this the end of the world as we know it?
Okay, Craig, I know that you have uncovered wild stuff regarding the Pope, who's going to be the future Pope. I've uncovered some stuff too that's very interesting. People are talking about J.D. Vance's meeting with the Pope, but I saw that he also met with the possible future Pope. But anyway, okay, tell me what you have uncovered.
So since the 1960s, the Vatican has been pushing for global governance, and their leading candidate, or who is believed to be the leading candidate by many, is Pietro Parolin of the Holy See.
And yeah, there's very interesting things about him. Can you explain more about him?
In the days ahead, we're going to have an election for a new pope. Usually that is within 15 to 20 days. And there's this conclave they have in the Sistine Chapel, and they'll elect a new pope. The pope's funeral comes first. And so at this funeral, we need to watch who attends. This will be huge. And so the Roman Catholic Church has about 1.3 billion members worldwide. And in 2005, Pope John Paul II's funeral, there was an estimated 4 million people that went to Rome and the Vatican City to mourn his death. So, and world leaders often attend this event. So we know that there's going to be world leaders at Pope Francis' event. As of January 22, there are 252 cardinals, of whom 138 are electors, according to the Vatican. Throughout the conclave, the cardinals are under oath of complete silence and forbidden contact with the outside world. In fact, so much so that they'll put jamming devices around the Vatican so people cannot even make a phone call out to the outside world. They'll stay in there till there's a new pope elected. That can take up to several days. Pope Francis was elected, though, within 24 hours. I think the longest one was almost 3 years.
Wow.
But in modern times, it's been going a lot faster. The longest conclave in the 20th century lasted 5 days. So that's once they start this event, we'll probably know within a week. Not since the 14th century, however, has anyone outside the rank of cardinal ever been elected pope. So we know from looking at who the cardinals are, we can narrow it down the possibilities. If no candidate receives at least 2/3 of the electors' votes, cardinals burn the slips of paper with chemicals, mystery chemicals, to produce black smoke. And then once a candidate earns the proper number of votes and accepts the papacy, they burn papers with white smoke. A lot of people ask, can we watch this papal election? And the simple answer is no, you can't. It's top secret, it's mystery. So when they begin this event, there'll be a special mass to begin the election of the papacy, after which 120 of the cardinals, the maximum number of cardinal electors, will gather inside the Sistine Chapel, which has overseen all papal conclaves since 1858.
Now we're going to be getting to some specifics on some of the candidates or the leading candidate and some very interesting things that would totally tie into Bible prophecy. But keep on going, Craig.
So there's several candidates for the papacy, and the leading candidate that has been prepped for this event is Pietro Parolin of Italy. And I'll probably get to that later, but some more details.
Right. Okay. And I know you're going to get to more information about him, and I will too. But it's interesting that he was the cardinal that went to King Charles' coronation instead of Pope Francis.
And he also does most of the speeches at the UN instead of Pope Francis, because Pope Francis was ill. So he's pushing the global UN Agenda 2030 more so, perhaps, on the front lines than Pope Francis. So it's believed that Pietro Parolin is expected to become the next pope. That's highly expected. But there's some other candidates too, as I'm going to mention a few of them. There's 3, so according to Reuters, there's 3 Peters that are in line to possibly be the next pope. Let's start with Peter Parolin. Parolin is among Vatican's most experienced officials and also carries considerable diplomatic experience worldwide, having been a part of negotiations with China and countries in the Middle East and the UN Agenda 2030. We have Cardinal Luis Antonio of the Philippines, but he's not viewed as a unifying candidate within the Vatican. And we have Cardinal Peter Erdo of Hungary. Then we have a Cardinal of Ukraine, and he's another potential choice. And so there's a few, but there's 3 Peters that are in line to potentially be the next pope.
Right, and then you mentioned, the Cardinal Peter Turkson and from Ghana. But what I've read, that someone said to me, "Oh, isn't he conservative?" Well, what I've read is he's very liberal. But anyway, but can you give? There's more information about Cardinal Pietro Parolin. Can you talk about that now?
Yeah. So we know that Vance just met with him on April 19th, and a Vatican statement said areas of agreement such as defense of religious freedom, as well as areas of tension with the Trump administration, were discussed. And so they're pushing for the universal church, so merging all religions together. And so Trump is doing this as well as the Vatican, and you see that with also King Charles with his.
Thanks, Di. 20 minutes. Thanks.
Right before Easter, where he talked of Islam and Judaism in regards to Easter. So they're trying to bring all the religions together.
Ever found your perfect match? You got me.
Okay, now when you say, of course, some people are going to go, wait, okay, President Trump, how is he pushing for it? But of course, we know like his faith.
The faith movement. And also he, to clarify, Donald Trump also had an event at the White House for the Muslims. And members of the faith movement were there.
Oh, how recent was that?
That was the last part of Ramadan.
Okay.
There was also an exchange of opinions on the international situation regarding countries affected by war and political tensions and difficult humanitarian situations. So there was a discussion there with Pietro. And while other issues of mutual interest were discussed, the Vatican said that hope was expressed for collaboration between the state and the Catholic Church.
Okay, see you tomorrow, mate.
So that they're pushing for more collaboration in the days ahead. So I want to make this clear that if you read Revelation 18, it states that all the kings of the earth deal with this religious Babylonian system, which we see only in Rome today. All the nations deal with Rome. Not all the nations deal with the United States. Not all the nations deal with London, but everybody, all presidents, all kings deal with the Vatican.
That's a good point.
Pietro, before his tenure as Secretary of State, worked in diplomatic service for the Holy See for 30 years. In September 2007, at the opening of the UN, Parolin argued, "We often hear in the halls of the United Nations of the responsibility to protect." The Holy See believes that applies also in the context of climate change. States have a shared responsibility to protect the world's climate through mitigation, adaptation, and above all, a shared responsibility to protect our planet and to ensure the present and future generations be able to live in a healthy and safer environment. On August 31st, 2013, Pope Francis appointed Parolin Secretary of State. When asked if he would be spearheading a new diplomatic offensive for peace, he noted that was a complicated question, but said, "Yes, I hope that we can recoup that drive. We have this great advantage in respect to other churches, to other religions. We can count on our international institutional presence through diplomacy." So this is how they plan to originate or arrive at peace, is through diplomacy. Parolin's also been called Papa Bill, a candidate to succeed Francis as Pope. So this is widely believed in the Catholic Church. Pope Francis raised him to the rank of Cardinal Bishop effective June of 2018. He also participated in COP28 on November 6th to the 7th in November 2023 and read the Pope's climate change statement at COP28 on his behalf, as the Pope was unable to attend. On the 2024 Gaza war, he stated that Israel had the right to self-defense, but this must be proportional. And with the 30,000 yet it certainly isn't. The Israeli embassy to the Holy See called his remarks a deplorable declaration. So we're also going to see him pushing for a Palestinian state, no matter whether he's the Pope or not.
Absolutely, because like, let's say he doesn't become the Pope. All eyes still need to be looking at Cardinal Pietro Parolin, because there's
Hey, Kelly, good to see
I'm
ya.
going to bring out too. But keep on going.
So he also has spoken on artificial intelligence and says one of the challenges posed by current events is undoubtedly the development of digital IDs or technologies based on artificial intelligence, the rapid spread of which is penetrating everyday life and influencing individual habits and social behavior. Its impact on the globalization of the economy, labor markets, political policies, and cultural expressions is becoming increasingly clear, so much so that we are facing not just an era of change, but a true paradigm shift. He goes on to say, understanding the transformations that are already taking place before our eyes as a result of the rapid development, it's a necessary act if we want to manage the AI revolution. That's the Roman Catholic Church wants to manage the AI revolution in a socially just and ecological sustainable way. We see that in prophecy where the Roman Catholic Church, the false prophet, would enforce the mark of the beast. And so they're managing the AI revolution. He goes on to say, through advanced analysis and detection techniques, AI systems can identify malicious activity, adapt to it, and in real time provide proactive defense tools. So they're calling it's control.
I just wanted to thank the members. Your monthly support has helped the channel so much. And those of you who have given gifts, it's very much appreciated. And thank you for those who have subscribed. It really, really helps the channel. And stay tuned because Craig is going to uncover how prophecy has accelerated since the Pope has passed away. And he'll also discuss the Malachi prophecy. So it's interesting that I didn't know that about this cardinal, talking about AI, but, on previous interviews that I've done with you, you talked about with Pope Francis and the Vatican. And I just remember the 2025 Rome Call document, which you talked about. And that was with the Cisco CEO, Chuck Robbins, had met privately with Pope Francis. And it was the whole thing of Cisco and Microsoft and IBM signing onto a Vatican-sponsored pledge regarding AI. So it's like you're like the Vatican and AI, and then you're talking about this, and they're still pushing it.
So whoever they get for Pope is going to push this global agenda. And if they don't, they're going to get pushed out. And then the next Pope would be the false prophet. So there's a high likelihood that the Pope they elect now will be the false prophet, but we don't know that for sure. So we have to watch and see how it plays out. But Parolin goes on to say, between the apocalyptic scenarios that imagine the futures and the salvific conceptions that see technology as a solution to every problem, there is the middle ground, using AI to improve the conditions of humanity, providing that it is subject to an appropriate form of control at the cultural, social, and political levels. It's the church that wants to control this and manage the AI in the days ahead.
And, President Trump is, of course, very strong on AI now. But I just want to mention one thing about J.D. Vance, since he had just recently met with Cardinal Pietro Parolin, which you discussed. But this was interesting to me. J.D. Vance was baptized into the Catholic Church in 2019. So it was just...
That's a good 15 years ago, Diane. So, yeah.
Recently, and he's the highest ranking Catholic in the United States government.
So the Vatican is involved in negotiations with all states for peace and unity with practical global politics in mind. The popes are elected to push a global agenda, which I've just stated, behind the scenes. And the behind the scenes global agenda is globalization via Agenda 2030 and the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The church, however, is pushing Laudato Si and Laudato Deum, and that is the 7 goals for 7 years, and that ends in 2028. But at the same time, they're also pushing for the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
So basically, either way, with the Laudato Si and then with the Sustainable Development Goals, basically they are just pushing the whole climate agenda.
Yeah, basically the Roman Catholic Church is becoming the movers and shakers
Yeah, Diane, once they go digital, there's no need for tellers, is there?
of the UN climate agenda. And with that, they're aligning themselves with the UN completely and bringing unity to the universal church through all these multiple denominations and religious organizations. So it's across all boards of religions. Almost all denominations are involved in this, major denominations. So Paralin, he wants to ensure the UN Sustainable Agenda has a human face, defining the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So we have to wonder as Christians who that human face is going to be. Is it going to be the false prophet, or is he referring to the king that is in control, or both? And historically, it's been both a king and a pope through the Holy Roman Empire. And then he said in a speech recently, I want millions to see. And we have to wonder what that millions is. And there's an answer for that. And it's the Roman Catholic Church has a sweeping global audience. And they want to awaken the world to a new reality. And that's via what we're talking about, Agenda 2030. So by 2030, it's a reset. Paralin's recognized as having a very good intellect. He's very smart. He knows several languages. He can speak English, unlike the previous pope. He has deep faith in the Roman Catholic system. And over the years, he has risen to the leading contender for the next.
I saw that Diane Klaus is under investigation. I did see that. Is it Trump going after him? I think it is.
He's also involved in fostering peace throughout the world. And we know that most popes must fulfill that role to foster peace.
All right, so there's stuff that, Craig already uncovered, but I just wanted to say this again, discuss some of these things. When Cardinal Pietro Parolin had talked about, I want millions to see, and Craig was talking about that. Well, he spoke at COP29 in 2024, and he was calling for prosperous nations to stop overusing natural resources at the expense of the poorer nations. In other words, he was saying when the poorer nations were having disasters, that it was because we are just overusing the natural resources, and it's our fault, and we need to feel guilty for it. But that was just like Pope Francis. He basically said the same kind of stuff. We need to feel guilty for prospering. And basically then they want to put everything, leveling everything out, and it's basically communism.
Asking the more affluent nations for resources by certain countries over long periods of time.
The Catholic Church is well worth over $32 billion. They could feed the world with $1 billion of that. So they're such hypocrites.
Therefore, it is essential to seek a new international financial architecture that is human-centered, bold, creative, and based on the principles of equity, justice, and solidarity.
And then Craig, talked about this too, but I'm going to name some of the nations. He carries a lot of experience in international relations, having been even in negotiations with China, Middle East, Nigeria, Mexico, Venezuela, Vietnam, Cuba, and he's been involved in international treaties. And he now the news portrays him as a peacemaker and involved in global peace campaign. He calls for prayer for justice, peace.
Yeah, Diane, my mum won't use the automatic tellers either. She goes because it's taken someone's job.
And the well-being of others, but again, that means everybody is equal as far as the poor nation. We have to just give up a lot of stuff. And of course, he's very pro-immigration. So that's with that. Now, Craig, do you want to mention anything as far as King Charles met with the Pope Francis, 12 days before he passed away?
12 days before they passed away, and they wished each other well because they're both sick.
Okay, now regarding sick, okay, so, Craig, people are gonna go, well, since King Charles is sick, there's no way he'll become the Antichrist.
Just because someone's sick doesn't mean they're on the deathbed. So we also have this prophecy of the popes, and I don't put any faith into these extra biblical prophecies, but it's reported by the New York.
Okay, that's the first time I've heard a Christian actually deny them 112 popes. I wonder why he does.
Times, and they have the
Is that the prophecy of Malachi or Malachi?
Yeah, Malachi, and it has this picture of the last pope with a black eagle on his head and a black horse sitting up on his lap.
Unicorn.
So, very interesting imagery there, and so it's prophesied by 2027 or in 2027 that the last pope will be Peter the Roman, and I find it, even though I don't believe these prophecies to be true per se, but it is interesting. We have three Peters as possibly being the next pope. So I would just say watch and don't put all your cards on an extra biblical prophecy. But,
right, but it's interesting because this was like, what period of time did he prophesy this? Do you know?
900-year-old manuscript. So it's been around for 900 years. And the question is, for everyone, is this the end of the world as we know it? And is this the time of the end? And so the Catholics also believe that the time of the end is here. Muslims also believe the time of the end is near.
Yeah.
And also the Christians who are watching know the time of the end is near. So, but Satan also knows the time is near. So you can have other religions, of course, that believe.
Okay, when I was trolling the Muslim sites, I asked them, do they know about the two witnesses? Do they know about this? Do they know about the mark of the beast? They don't know any of this stuff at all. So I know why he's saying that Islam's on it, because they're not.
The time is near to the end. Beyond the Pope pick, the eeriest prediction pulled from the prophecy document claims that Judgment Day, the second coming of Christ, when all people living and dead will earn their eternal fate, is quite near. So that's in the prophecy. And it ends with Peter the Roman in 2027. So I don't agree with that prophecy anyways because of the year per se. But according to this final entry surrounded Peter the Roman, the last pope will preside over the church during a time of great turmoil, culminating in the destruction of Rome and the end of the papacy. And we see the destruction of Rome in Revelation 18 because all the nations of the earth fornicated with her. And so the papacy is involved with all matters of peace worldwide. So we're going to see them at UN meetings every September, and we're going to see them at the UN COP meetings and anything else pertaining to UN. The Vatican is always present in some way, shape, or form. So I find that very, very interesting that a lot of people may be pushing for Pietro because of this prophecy.
Well, he's definitely one to watch if he doesn't become the Pope, but I would be pretty shocked if he's not.
And if he's not, it's still possible that he could be later on. Because if the next pope doesn't push the proper agenda, they'll just push him out. But all popes, it's obviously all popes since the 1960s are pushing this globalization agenda, and this guy pushes it more than anybody. So we'll see what happens.
So again, Cardinal Pietro Parolin was basically Pope. He was Pope Francis's right-hand man. And there's something I just want to bring up.
Diane, we haven't got anything like that. Well, at our court cells, at our court buildings, we do have metal detectors there. But other than that, we don't have what you guys have got there.
And this is from past interviews that I did with Craig and information that Craig had said. 2015.
It's a bit caught, Di.
10 environmental commandments to protect the planet. This is something that Parolin would keep on pushing too. And I don't know if you all remember, but November 9th, 2023, Pope Francis asked thousands of children to chant, "Nature is our future." Remember that, Craig?
Yeah.
So they definitely talk about wanting to educate everyone basically on what you should be allowed to do and not do so you don't destroy the planet.
Yeah, and he portrays himself as a peacemaker and is very pro-immigration in allowing the other people enter your own country. So they want immigration through, you can live wherever you please, basically the idea. And that always leads to problems. We see that today too.
Okay, so there's a lot to watch for. So Craig, how can people find you?
I'm on Facebook, Craig Bung, or Rapture Watchers, all caps, by Craig.
Diane, I was a good shoplifter as a kid. I might switch it on to Paul Begley now.
On out there. A lot of questions, guys. A lot of questions, and we need some answers. And people are saying the Sand King. Oh, I want to ask him, is this guy the Sand King? Is this guy the Assyrian of the Bible? Is this guy right here, Ahmed?
From Saudi Arabia?
Al-Sharari. Is he the Assyrian of the Bible, who wants to make peace with Israel, yet he's a terrorist and he took over Syria?
That's pretty big.
So is he the Assyrian that the Bible talked about? Is he the Sand King? And what about President Trump? President Trump in 2 weeks is going to the Middle East. He's going to meet with Saudi Arabia. He's going to meet with Qatar. He's going to meet with United Arab Emirates. And then from there, he's going to go meet with Putin somewhere. Maybe Putin's going to come to him. We don't even know. Maybe they're going to end the war somehow. Maybe they can end both wars for all I know. I don't know. But there's a lot going on. And who's going to be the next pope? What's going on in Rome? All these things are happening, guys. All these things are absolutely happening. And so how does it all tie in together? And that's the fascinating thing about prophecy.
Mm.
You know, it's a big puzzle, and the pieces are coming together. That's for sure. Joining us right now from somewhere around.
Diane, I can beat that. I shoplifted a fish tank with the pumps and all that in it. I shoplifted a fish tank, and I actually shoplifted skateboards. We put mud on our shoes and went to grab a skateboard from Kmart, and then got a file from the tool department, put a few scratches on the skateboard, wiped the mud on it, and just walked out. They thought it was ours. I was quite a little shoplifter.
Around the world, and I mean somewhere. He's been out there somewhere. Mike from around the world.
Good night, Phil.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
God bless you, Mike. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Wait, before we start.
Okay.
There is for some people that they already know it's COT, but I have a plastic piece.
We should team up, Di.
In the roof of my mouth, almost like a palate expander.
Okay.
Except this keeps the some scan they did in place. That was done. That'll be over in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But yeah, I left on the 17th.
Okay.
In a hurry.
Yes, you did.
Actually, it was the 16th, but 17th in a hurry. Pastor, where do you begin? Let's just say that a rearrangement of the Middle East is taking place, and military bases are leaving. Our military bases are leaving. We're getting our equipment and guys out of the Middle East. They have to be repositioned. They have to come out of Syria fast.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So
tell us about it. Why?
Yeah. Well.
Why?
We have the.
And Diane, either you posted this or I read it somewhere else in the last 24 hours. Trump's demanding troops on the ground in the Middle East. At 50,000 troops combat ready. I think you posted that yesterday.
Osaka province, all military assets have to be pulled out. Syria, there's a bigger plan at play. Syria, of course, has a brand new assumed leader, right?
Right.
And he's going forward with quite a few talks. He's also somewhat endorsed by
What did he mean by assumed leader?
Trudeau.
By Trudeau? Okay.
Imagine that.
Okay.
Imagine
Makes
that
me
one.
nervous. Okay.
Yeah. And Saudi Arabia, right, is paying off Syria's debt to the World Bank. And we have the UK, who, well, not just them, but they have reinstated Syria's.
The UK is lost. There's too many Muslims there now, and clay and iron don't mix. So UK's already gone, in my opinion.
The state War Department, intelligence departments, so they're going to be fully operational in about, I'd say about 5 or 6 days, which means we're going to be able to look throughout the Middle East militarily and tactically to see what they have to do. They are quite, as a collective, they're quite serious in joining the EU. Through the Abraham Accords, that's a doorway for them.
So,
right?
Yeah, there it is.
That's a doorway.
Today it was announced that he wants to make peace with Israel in this Abraham Accords. And so you're bringing up that Saudi Arabia is going to pay off his debt. This is, they're going to legitimize him. He's going to be empowered, right?
Yeah, no. Well, Saudi Arabia is paying off Syria's debt to the World Bank through the Abraham Accords, right? That means they'll normalize with the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. Morocco also, even though they were the main ones that spoke about that individual and his creations of horror, they're behind him too. So Ahmed al-Shara, I hate that last name. It's hard. Its meaning, but anyway, well, the meaning, it's all is weird. This guy is going. He's going some places, and I think everybody should have their eyes open. This is almost like an introduction to a country that's about to make its presence on the world stage.
Wow!
After many years, you're talking about a country since Bashar al-Assad had power. And by the way, take note of this too. Bashar al-Assad was removed not by some, not by some Christians, right? But the Islamic world.
Yes, they did.
Removed him. Okay, that's who removed him. So it's not like this guy is the opposite of what al-Assad was. This guy, he embodies the Islamic kingdom. This guy does, right? He is one of the most. He is the one of 100 most influential people, right? He's been that way for some time. His academic disciplines go much further than what they're publicizing. I'm not sure what they're actually publicizing.
They're saying, Mike, that he went to the Damascus University and he got a degree in medicine and in media. And this is what they're publicizing. And then he was born in Saudi Arabia, so that's interesting that Saudi Arabia is going to pay off their debt. But then when he went to Iraq, he fought against the U.S. troops in the Iraqi War of 2003 with Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
So this guy's a terrorist. But
and created 3 terror groups.
You're right.
This guy did.
Al-Nusra, and he was involved with ISIS, and then finally with the HTS. So to your point, but he's being painted as a hero, Mike. He's being painted as a savior.
It's almost like when you go to the Middle East, there is a notable change. It is not the same. It's not the same. And so this guy is, he's going to do his thing. Now, what I'm watching for is his normalization with Israel. This is coming. Now, Israel is skeptical, and that there have been outbreaks of, firefights happening in sporadic places. But at the same time, you do realize that Iraq is fortifying its, here it comes, nuclear sites.
What? Right? No.
Yeah. And China has they have fed quite a bit of, money into Iraq. So Iraq is different. It is not the same. It's not the same. In fact, the Middle East is not the same. And this talk about Iran has shifted assets. They also have hardened facilities. And there's an operation taking place that is just deceitful, period. Deceitful, period. It's almost like the world is coming against Iran with Syria now in line with that.
Yeah.
But here's a fact. You cannot touch Iran's hardened facilities. Everybody has failed, even the Mossad. They can't do it. They know they can't do it. So what they're going to do is try to force a change of leadership.
In Iran? Right? In Iran?
Yeah. That will cause some upheavals, right? It will, but it will negotiate a type of atmosphere for Israel for time.
Okay.
And by time, I mean maybe 5 months, and then everything will fall apart. There's no way what they're doing is going to hold.
Well,
there's no way.
Let me ask you, because President Trump is going to the Middle East. Okay. And he's going to Saudi Arabia, and then I think Qatar, and then the UAE. And he's going to meet with these guys over there.
Yeah.
Is this about? I mean, obviously, it's about several things. It's got to be about Hamas in Gaza. It's got to be about Iran's nuclear program, and it has to be about now this new arrival. Is this the Assyrian of the Bible? I mean, is this guy the Sand King? Is he the Assyrian of the Bible who ultimately, eventually turns on Israel with a rod?
Well, we haven't got much time for another one to rise up, so I'm guessing, yeah, he is.
We will know, and if he survives his own trials, as far as his position, if it's escalated, and the people begin to adopt him, and Israel begins to adopt him, because Pastor Paul, I've read a lot of prophecies from religions around the world, and I kind of shun all of them except for the Bible's prophecies.
Right.
In the book of Daniel, there's one thing that sticks out to me of all of what's said. This Antichrist figure in Daniel 11:31 accomplishes something nobody else did. And this is why but if I can read this, just a little bit of this.
Sure, go ahead.
It says for the ships of Shittim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Number one, what that means, he is talking to people who do not like Israel, right?
Okay.
So they're going to plan to forsake the holy covenant. Daniel 11:31 says, and arms or armies shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination and make it desolate. Right? So that guy accomplishes this, the going into Israel after they've had talks, after he failed the first time, right? Because he comes against Israel, but it doesn't work by way of policy, as though politics wouldn't allow it to happen. And then he was driven back by some sort of by a military influence, but then he goes out and he arranges and he coordinates with everybody who hates Israel, who has hatred against Israel. He brings them all together. That's what I'm watching for. Who is this guy going to talk to? Because in the Bible and Daniel, this figure, he talks to everybody who has indignation against Israel, and he brings them all together under one banner. Then they go into Jerusalem, and then that process begins. So that's what I'm watching for. Is he actually, right, will he actually be the one that ignites some sort of motivation under the nation of Islam, right?
Right.
because only by their prophecies, by their hadith, that would have to be, well, you know where I'm going with that. That would have to be the chosen one they're looking for, right?
Well, let me ask you, Mike.
He certainly has the credentials.
Okay, so he's very intelligent.
He's extremely intelligent,
and he is apparently very charismatic. To pull off what he has done, you know.
Oh yes.
Now,
Yes.
let me ask you though: is he? And I know when you, I know you can't disclose probably where you were at those 3 days. I don't know if you can or not. I know, but you're the only one who can tell us that. But here's what I do know. You know, and I know that there's a major shift going on in the region there.
Yes.
The question is, if he is the Assyrian of the Bible, then what you're saying in Daniel 11:31, then he's the guy who has to bring everybody. But I can't bring everybody together in the Islamic world and get the Western world to go along with it.
Yeah, well, Pastor Paul, there is how I'll say this. I say this maybe once a month, but if anybody in the prophecy in the Bible, it says Jerusalem at the time of, I know everybody thinks it's bad, but it's not. When Jerusalem is trampled underfoot 3.5 years, right?
Yes.
40 and 2 months.
Yes.
How can that happen? Right? How can that happen with the USA in power? So here's what that tells me. Something happened to us.
Yes.
That tied us up so bad we were not able to intervene with Israel.
Yes.
And then you read how we're stuck by policy, because in Daniel, if you go further in Daniel, it says that people will cleave to those in Israel and Jerusalem by way of flatteries. Now we know what that is. We don't. That's when somebody says, "Hey, just hang tight. We're going to get you out of there." But for 3.5 years, really, we can't do anything. And then you look at the USA now. President Trump is doing everything he can. And,
right.
You know,
right.
each person's going to do what they can, but there are ideologies in this nation that are dangerously explosive. That's the best way to put it. And it has caused a severe set of fractures in leadership, the direction the nation is going, what can be accomplished and what cannot. The military is having issues internally as far as leadership. There's going to be a sweep in this nation nobody is familiar with. We have AI is coming out to the front. They're utilizing AI every single day in a big way here shortly. But all those efforts tell me that we're going to be locked up trying to resolve something that happened with us internally, right? Where we couldn't do anything else. And so, you know what that tells me ultimately?
What's that?
The international community is going to turn against us. That's what it tells me.
Well, I think that's happening. I do. I really think that's happening.
Mm-hmm. That's what it lets me know. Because there's no way, whether we're divided internally or not, there's no way anybody can stop our military from intervening in any area of the world unless the international community has turned against us and somehow chained us up, right?
Yeah.
I know it's not good news, but that means something will take place that's going to give us a jolt. It won't destroy us. I don't believe it's going to destroy us. It's going to give us a jolt.
It ties us up.
It'll certainly reshape some things, right?
Yeah.
But and we pastor natural disasters, right?
Yeah.
Suppose they hit an all-time high this year, 2025.
Okay.
We are vulnerable. The Mississippi, right, is about to overflow big time, right? If it continues, it will overflow. We're having more stalled storms. They do not want to tell people that the storm system we have right now is one system. It's not multiple systems. It's one system. It's dropping water all over the place. Tornadoes, they form and everything else. That's going to be followed by some cold and heat shears. That's going to cause even worse weather, right? Flooding and fires are just beginning, right? Then we have to go through atmospheric changes. The wind speeds are certainly going to shift. This with some later on this year, some solar, I'm going to call them a solar blowout. We're going to have a solar blowout. And, that's really going to expose some of the mechanisms between Earth and the sun, and some very interesting science that is quite dangerous.
Well, while you were gone last week, and the sun, and BP Earthwatch was on with us last week, and he told us about how the magnetosphere opened up on the Earth for 9 hours.
Yeah.
And the winds were coming off the sun at over 660 kilometers per second, and blowing straight at us.
Wow.
Anyways, we started having earthquakes everywhere, and people were having pain, and people were having nausea and migraines and dizziness, and all kinds of things were happening to us from the sun. And so I guess I wanted to get your take on, look, there's all, you talked about the void, and maybe that's something you're going to talk about in our webinar coming up. I don't know, but it seems like the sun is becoming more and more volatile. I mean, way more. And can you speak about that to some degree?
Yeah, sure it is. If I'm just saying if, I believe we do, but if we live in a binary system, right? Okay. The closer we get to the passage of one star to another, two suns, right? We're going to have interruptions in how the sun operates. It's going to change. It's going to do things that are not friendly to any planet, right? For example, the oceans that they have found on Mars, right? And some of the other things that they're finding on Mars may not, hopefully, as published. Oops. But
I was getting ready to say, where'd you get that information? I don't
people will begin to redetermine some science in their own heads, right? As truth comes out, as more truth comes out, undeniable truth, right?
Okay.
For example, if you wake up one day and they say, hey, in Brazil, the oceans are boiling, but not anywhere else, what's going on down there, right? And it's when their atmospheric changes so bad, Pastor Paul, that no one can walk right. No one.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It messed up the GPS and the tractors. Easter Sunday afternoon, the farmers were out planting fields, and their tractors started dancing.
Wow.
GPS, they literally, because those guys don't drive those things. They get in there, they set it up, they sit back and just watch it. And they started dancing in the field. So what does that mean planes would do?
Well, this same thing, except for the redundancy on an aircraft. You may have a wrong heading or something like that. Thank God for flight dynamics and redundancy in computers, but that's not going to work well.
Hey, I was never here. Good to see you.
Pressure change. No system is adapted to deal with that much of a pressure change. Anyway, though, we're going to start to see these types of activities on the Earth that are undeniable. And they will, as we stated 15 years or 13 years ago to this very day, they will gradually increase, right? Gradually, day to day. So if you compress time and you look at things 5 years at a time, not month to month, but 5 years at a time, then you see the true changes in the Earth, and they are devastating. In fact,
Diane, there's a few people saying the dollar's already bankrupt.
We could compress 10 years. I think that all of us would say Christ is coming in 5 minutes or something like that, right? Because the changes are so the increase is just, it blows your mind. But if we're in a binary system, expect the sun to burn out certain chemicals. Again, it's been observed that when a second star gets near the bright star, right? When a cold star gets near a bright star, there is a material exchange between the bright star and the cold star. That means a diversion of light. Photons start being diverted towards the other star. That's how it recharges before it goes back out again. We may never see the second star, right? We may see some of the objects that rotate around the second star, but not the second star.
Okay.
But we'll certainly see a diversion of materials. Can you imagine our sun elongated?
What?
I don't know nothing about digital currency. I don't know how to buy gold. If I knew how, I'd do it. but I wouldn't know if I'm being scammed, so I won't go near that sort of stuff.
Look elongated.
Wait a
Our
minute.
sun will look elongated.
Okay, is that because that we shifted? Who shifted here? I mean,
No. That's because material from the sun, right, will be sucked into the other star.
Hydrogen?
Right? All of it, well, whatever it has. Think of it this way: if you can be in a house doing anything, right?
Yeah.
You can have no air blowing, but if you put two magnets close together, that magnetic force is going to activate. Right? It's going to draw those magnets together.
So it's a gravitational pull? Is that what's
somewhat? You're electromagnetic. You're looking at radiation bands, right? Being initialized on very different levels. You're looking at heat characteristics that we don't quite understand yet, but can observe. You're looking at a compression event on the sun that will cause it to be extremely yellow, or yellow to reddish. Now, here's something interesting. During that material exchange, there's no light that will hit anywhere outside of that, exchange band. So hopefully we're not in the middle of that band, because when all that material, think of a solar flare, right?
Yeah.
All those solar flares in 1 year going to one side of the sun. That's what it will seem to be. Anything caught between that is going to get fried, but everything else will have no light. They'll have a red light. Everything will turn red. Now that can last for a day. That can last for 40 days. We don't know. We just don't know.
Okay, so it could
But
certainly be.
it will be red. Everything will be red. Everything will be red.
Now, is that part of the 3 days of darkness kind of thing? Or is it, if everything's going to be red, it's not totally dark? But how do we survive 3 days like that? Just 3 days? Do we?
Well, you're looking at infrared heat. I believe we will.
Okay.
I believe that a lot of people will, they're going to go underground. That's when they will seek their real protection. Why? Because of wind speeds on the surface of the earth. Without the sun balances so much. Without it, we're done for. You're looking at 200 plus mile an hour winds on the gusts on the surface of the earth. And that just wouldn't be good.
So if in other words, we're going to have an excessive wind, tornadoes, straight.
I agree, Osner. The digital coin has something to do with the mark. I think you're right.
High winds, massive dust.
I believe it'll be dry then too.
Yeah, dry. Well, the wind will dry things out quick. I mean,
I think, Pastor Paul, after this, what we're having on the earth right now, right, this buildup of weather phenomena is going to be followed by the worst drought anybody has ever seen.
Dear Lord.
I mean, no rain, right? Now, no rain whatsoever means, are we going to have clouds? Very few. We're going to go through a phenomenon that's been observed several times. They can't really talk about it because nobody can do anything about it. But after all this rain, through compression and through the sun's activities, we're not going to have rain at all. That means drought. And I believe that drought has already begun. I believe it's already begun. It's going to get worse. The rain that we're having now is going to flood just about everything, but it's not going to help anybody. Unless people start, saving all the water, they can. But the earth is not saving water. The earth is, evaporating that water.
Because the heat, because of the wind, because of the evaporation. Because what about the magma rising?
That's just, how can water sustain itself in the earth? Like, we're not talking about superheated water that's in a cavity.
Right.
How can water, be sustained in a hot earth? The ground temperatures are hotter than they've ever been. The ocean temperatures are hotter than they've ever been. And water is simply not staying in the earth. Salt water intrusion is taking place.
Yes.
Fresh water's gone despite the rainfall. It's the weirdest thing anybody ever saw. You have all this flooding that we had, and now you have counties.
Diane, that's what it means. I never knew that. That's what it meant.
Counties in the USA that their reservoirs have gone dry
capital gains tax. I didn't know what that was. Now I do.
Just that quick.
It's
How
dry.
in the
It's
world?
dry down here in Florida. I've never seen it. Okay, the retention ponds, I've never seen them this low. This insanely low. It hasn't rained. I mean, here at my house here in Florida, I know it hasn't rained in 6 weeks. Not a drop. In 6 weeks, my grass is as brown. It's as dead can
It's
be.
going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
That's going to be everywhere. Just a brownish brown with dead trees.
Yeah.
That will be all over the place. But the crops, they're really destroyed. There's going to be a limit on meat in 1 month. How you like that one?
What? Wait a minute, Mike. There's going to be a limit on meat in about.
Diane, that's what I was using the capital gains tax on. It's on the housing market. That's where I know it from. But I didn't know what it meant until you just explained it.
A month. Here in America? Here in America?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Is
Yeah,
that
sorry to say that.
Do we got to get cans of spam? I mean, remember when you talked about that? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot. Green eggs
We-
and spam, man.
these,
I'm looking forward to it.
The weather conditions are killing. They're just killing the fields, the farms. You know, they're suffering big time. And you know, politics is making it worse.
It is.
It's just making it worse because everybody's working against each other.
That's what's killing us right now. No unity. It's awful.
No.
It's awful.
It is so simple that if a president comes in to say, okay, you know, let's see what happens in the first year, right? And if it goes all wrong, then hey, it goes all wrong.
Yeah.
But see what what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah.
But people judge. They judge too much. Everybody's the Antichrist.
I know.
Everybody's
I'm so
this
tired
and
of
everybody's that, and people are so biased. Well, I'll tell you. I'll be the first to tell you. I'm a child of the kingdom,
Thank you.
so I'm not
Amen.
biased towards these things. God called me out of the world.
Yeah.
He didn't call me into it, out of it.
Amen.
So I can intercede by prayer. But somebody has to pray for these guys. In fact, like Pharaoh, right?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me one time, they said, well, Pharaoh was evil. I said, no, he was not. God hardened his heart. God did that so he could show his power to his own people in captivity.
Yep.
And so Pharaoh would say no, right?
Yep,
God
you're
did
right.
that.
God did
So if we could just realize that God knows exactly what he's doing. He does.
Amen.
And he's not going to be late for us. He's not going to be late. But I'll tell you what, we're in a late hour because I can't say it all, but things are far worse
I have a feeling
than they look like. You know?
that in your trip you were made privy, and you observed and was made privy to some of the major changes and things that are about ready to develop.
Some of it I had no choice. It's possible. Sometimes it's like a curse of something in family. It's almost like a curse because some things can make life seem hopeless. You know, because I pray a lot, right? I know what the Lord's going to do, but I don't like to see people suffer.
No.
Pastor, there's so much suffering on the earth. Every single American, thank God they're not suffering like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the evil people in this world, Bahrain, really, the UAE, really, they have talks about using Israel. I can't say any more to that, but there's some not so good people in those places who are at heart Islamic individuals who desire that Israel not be there.
Yeah.
In fact, there are some that say we're not going to have any normalization until Israel has an accident.
We're going to watch this. Let me ask you a question. Let's go to Rome for a minute. The Pope has died, but you were gone. No, you didn't go kill him.
Yeah.
You didn't go kill him, and neither did my cousin J.D. Vance, although he was.
How ironic. How ironic.
5 hours. J.D. Vance meets him in 5 hours. The Pope's dead. That's kind of ironic. That's kind of ironic. That's definitely ironic. Okay. So the Pope dies while you're gone, and we call that the 3 days of darkness because you disappeared for 3 days. That was the name of the show.
Yeah.
But in Rome, okay, so the conclave will be gathering. I've been analyzing the 15 or so that are at the top, and that doesn't mean any of them will make it. One guy is Peter from Rome, which is real strange, and he's the top dude. He's the Secretary of State of the Vatican. He's Pietro, What is your thought on what's going to happen there in this next Pope coming in? Is there some indication of where this thing is going and what does it mean prophetically?
Well, I'll tell you something. The Vatican is a place of power and influence across this earth.
Right.
So naturally, and it has to do with religion. So naturally, it is a prophetic place. Now that I'm not saying that that their prophecies are
right,
absolutely.
No,
not saying that part. And I'm not discounting them either. I'm not doing that. But because I stick with the Bible's prophecies. But none of us could ignore the fact that this outbreak has happened all at one time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I do know that Italy is on borrowed time. That Rome is on borrowed time geologically.
Yeah, you're the number one guy to say that. So because we got the fault line, we got the volcanoes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you, the reality of that situation can almost make you cry for the people because you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Water. It's when that happens, water is going to overtake that entire lip. I mean, everything is going to go, and that will be devastating within itself. Also, you're now that we have the Islamic world stepping up to a podium for the first time or second time in history, I'll say, we have a problem. We have a real problem. You have nations now. Listen to this. I'll say this as tactfully as I can, but you have nations fully adopting Islamic ways right now.
Are you talking in Europe? Are you talking the Western world?
Nations, plural. Now, that's not going to happen here in the USA as long as we have President Trump, right?
Right.
But he's not going to be president forever.
No,
he's not. And but it's eerie. They have lost their. Some people, it's almost like they lost their minds. People are going to see policy changes. They're going to see the Islamic kingdoms march all throughout the earth by way of meetings and celebrating economic victories. They talked about that this weekend.
I mean, let's face it.
Economic victory over the dollar. Who does that?
No,
who does that?
No one ever
but
thought
that's
that
what they're
was
talking about.
Yeah, no one ever seen that coming. Nobody ever thought that could ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
and just in case,
look at the UK. I mean, 11. Yeah. There are 11 largest cities. The mayors are Islam.
Tell you, ancient Rome used that as well. Silver for its dollars and that, pure silver.
The biggest 11 cities, including London, are Islamic. What's happened?
Pastors changing quick. Even the markets, the crypto market, right? I know I keep bringing this up, but the crypto market is going to be back in the spotlight. Yeah, it should be happening at least right now, back in the spotlight. I mean, in a way, it's never been before. You're looking at countries like El Salvador, who is a template for other nations, are looking at El Salvador right now as for their countries, right? Mm-hmm. Right now.
Well, let's talk about the dollar dying. I hate it. I jumped in it, but back to the dollar. Yes. So this week, while you're gone, you've seen them celebrating that the dollar is going to fall under some other currency. Would you? Do we know what currency that could be?
Yeah, but no one would dare say it. I think it's going to become obvious with announcements and with opportunity.
Thanks for that link, Di.
Of announcements, and certain people are going to be rich overnight because they bought into something a long time ago that did absolutely nothing. The rebirth of that currency is coming quickly, and when it does, a person is going to go from broke to multimillionaire overnight. I mean, overnight. That's just with one nation dealing with one Malaysian nation, but you're looking at a host of nations who are now self-empowered. The international community is changing.
Yep.
The power structure is changing.
It's shifting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I love how the mainstream media is going broke. I love that more than anything.
And so they're actually gaining in their ties right now. So look forward to announcements, international announcements that make no sense, right? Now, it does not mean that America's going to go broke. People, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, people will have their money, right? In America, they will.
Yeah.
But they won't have a lot to buy.
Well,
They won't.
because you're saying the shelves are going to go empty because there's going to be a shortage.
Yeah. We're going to go through some a little bit of a strainer, and people will not be able to get everything they want to get. They'll have their money, but they won't have their product. I know I've said that time and time again, but that time is coming. This while the international world continues to go forward. And I'll tell you something. All that is in the realm of reality, not saying anything prophetic, but prophetically, things are so close. They're close. You have scientists that are worried they don't know what to say, right? In fact, I think in 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, people will start to learn why are these scientists quitting their job? Why would a scientist quit? That's what people will find out. Part of that will be because they can't say stuff. Yeah. If you were a scientist, but you were forbidden to tell the people something important, right? How could you live with yourself knowing it's going to cause, you can actually help someone, but you cannot because they forbid it, right? And then unfortunately, this is that time of change. It is a time of change, and desolations will most certainly come.
Well, that's prophecy, and I guess the scientists, if they see what's being developed or what's going on or what's about to take place, and they're not allowed to say nothing, and they don't even want to participate in it. They just like, I'm just out.
Like CERN, right?
Okay.
You would think scientists would run the CERN, right? And say, hey, I want my application in there, man. Right? No. The ones that are at CERN right now, it's almost like a hush-hush type thing. And many of those scientists have changed. They changed. They go, listen, at CERN, you have an icon at the top of CERN so everybody can see it.
Yeah.
You have CERN itself.
Shiva. Yeah.
But somebody needs to check what's below.
You're so good at the links, guy.
Facility.
We speak about it within 2 minutes. You've got links to it. I don't know how you do it.
Right, the Hadron Collider. What sits below that?
What's below there? What else?
Apollo's tomb.
There's something below there. You better believe it, because the Hadron Collider was just the, that's more like the public mechanism for the public base.
Gotcha.
You better believe there's another facility below that facility, right? And they have some accomplishments. Take, for example, quantum computing. This is somewhat disturbing. In quantum computing, it is a known fact that before you can ask a question, the answer is given.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Is that reading your thoughts? Reading your thoughts?
No. That has to do with time.
What do you mean?
If you are going to ask a question on a quantum computer and you're committed to asking that question, the answer comes before you can finish typing your question. And we're talking about lengthy mathematical inquiries. Lengthy, right? So how can that be?
Well, are we talking time manipulation here?
Well, it's just a natural byproduct of what man has tapped into, and come to find out, they don't even know how the fullness of quantum computing, they have no idea how that works.
Well, the president, or not the president, but the White House.
That's pretty interesting.
Admitted this week that we have the technology. One of the main advisors said we have the technology to manipulate time and space. He didn't say how. Didn't say how.
Wow.
He didn't say we have a time machine, or anything like that. But we have the ability. We have his words were, we have the technology to manipulate time and space.
You know what that means?
And that's why I believe in a secret space program. It's got to exist.
What does that mean?
that means somebody else now has it. That's what that means. And that means,
besides us.
That's right. That means time dilation. They only make a statement like that if something has gotten loose. Something has gotten loose right now. Before anybody starts thinking about Back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
If you could manipulate half of a second in time, right? You can really mess up some things. And we're not talking about going back in time and doing something, 5 days for somebody. That's not what they're talking about. And that is not what they're talking about. They're relating that to speed, right? Okay. So to manipulate time is to be able to excel in speed so fast that time almost becomes irrelevant, right? That's what he's talking about. It's complex, but that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about the some of the TV.
No.
Television has messed folks up.
Yeah.
But he's so think of this in regards to speed. Now, if somebody has gotten close to the speed of light, right? That changes everything. If you had some sort of propulsion that could do that, or a projectile that can do that, right? We know it's done at CERN all the time.
Yeah.
Don't we?
Yeah,
there you go.
We know
there you are.
Speed of
there
light.
you are. There you are.
That's where it's happening, isn't it?
There you are. And without those large magnets, right? Then what is CERN exactly?
It's one big.
It's a particle beam weapon.
It's exactly.
It's a particle beam weapon.
That's why I think they were concerned that they could, by crashing protons, they could actually manipulate and set off a chain reaction that could blow up that's what Stephen Hawking was worried about.
Just like the atom bomb.
Yeah.
Just like the atom bomb.
But blow up the entire universe is what they were scared.
Because once you start a reaction, right, and the speed is now you now conquer that, right? You can't stop that. You don't know if you can stop that reaction. Right. That's right. But we do have an effective particle beam weapon. Remember when they lost magnetic containment at CERN and the aircraft went down and they swept that under the carpet? Then it happened again and they swept that under the carpet. And then they lost magnetic containment and the magnetic shielding of the Earth fluctuated big time at the same time that experiment took place. So these guys are tampering with things that are going to mess people's brains up. The other part of this, Pastor Paul, is how everything is about to be ushered into this spiritual
dimension
plane. We'll say everything that's been hidden, right, is just not going to be hidden, not all the time. So that's going to change everything. Everybody will start to have like a memory loss, amnesia. People will start to have an amnesia that is weird, right? Imagine forgetting something one day, but then the next day you're good to go. This will be a byproduct of the magnetic field.
I'm already there, Mike. I'm already having those issues, so now yours is going to make it worse.
Because without the magnetic shielding, right?
Yeah.
Your neurons, your neural net in your brain, those connections become meaningless for a second or two, and that can cause a memory loss big time. That can cause memory loss, and for some people, it can turn them into animals. It can make them highly aggressive, or hyper depressed. So we're going to have to deal with that. These emotions, these large, emotional swings. So get ready for that too. That's going to be one of those unexplained things.
Okay, now what about piercing the veil, or what about going to another dimension? Is that
They've done that already? He did that already.
Are they afraid? Are we getting into a spiritual realm where there's other entities, good or bad?
They're doing what they belong. Pascal, they're not dealing with anything good. I don't believe.
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Because these guys, why would those people at CERN put the devil himself up for an object of worship?
That tells you that tells you which side they're going, why they're going over there.
And no disrespect to India, but when you begin to worship all these different gods and goddesses, and then put that one up there, the creator and destroyer. Right?
That's a Apollyon.
But they're taking over his power. right? The power of the creation and destruction is what they're doing at CERN. That's what they're doing.
They're messing with something they better not be messing with.
That's what they're doing. For what? For what reason would they continue to have, experiments like that? And then for other people, when they know about certain experiments that took place all over the world dealing with Lucifer, devils, demons, lots of these experiments that are classified had to do with demons. Do you know that?
Well, okay, now Apollyon is the destroyer, and Shiva is the goddess of destruction or whatever, right? And the underworld. And this also, they built CERN over the very area where they were pagan worship of Apollo. It's like they are actually.
Did you say used to?
Well, they still do. Okay,
how about they recreated that?
They do it now in a modern ability, much greater power now, right?
Yeah, they have resurrected that entire chamber below.
They're trying to open the bottomless pit, Mike. They're really trying to. Maybe they have already.
Pastor, I think people should, for those who believe in Christ, that's good. But the first influence of these demoniacs would be this because right now people, they know it themselves, Pastor Paul. Something is fighting their faith, and it's on a spiritual level. What I mean by that is you have people reading and praying and doing everything, but as soon as they close the Bible and walk away, it's almost as if something is fighting everything within them to emotionally drain them and to get them to start doubting everything almost immediately.
Yeah.
And if a person does not motivate themselves, it's almost like they can't get it back or something like that, right? It's like they're dead. And do you remember the fire that people used to have back in 2010, 11, 12, 13?
Oh, yeah.
And something zapped it in 2015.
Yeah.
Something happened in 2015 that zapped the fire of many people because people they had a feeling. When you start talking about prophecy, it caused an excitement that nobody could explain.
Yep.
What happened to that? Right? See, a lot of people lost that, and people are just ignoring that. They can ignore that. That's a reality all over the face of the earth. And worse things are coming. But that fire, right? That fire is coming back. But it's not coming back to everybody. It's not coming back to everybody. It's coming back to those who are real, right? I mean, real. Those who stay the course is coming back. My advice would be to anybody, you learn what you can learn, right? Don't become the expert on everything that's wrong, but learn and try to get on the right side of things and do what you do, because I just don't believe we have the time people think we have. I just don't. And it's going to be a sad deal for those who rejected Christ, because he's working. It's almost like right now Christ is working he's active with everybody on a very intimate level. And how many people are rejecting him by choosing the ways of this world yet again over the ways of righteousness? Or worse, they have made unto themselves their own Christ.
That's worse. No. That's blasphemous.
Yeah, well, we have the Islamic kingdom rising, and it's starting to spread like a plague. I mean, a real plague. And then we have something that's happening in America. You have a president who finally spoke the name of Jesus. But who does that?
That's amazing. Right?
Who does that? Because I used to tell people all the time, anybody can say God all day long. I don't know what God they're talking about. They say identify that with Christ.
With Jesus.
And so, we're in a very different time. But well, here we are.
Well, we are right in the middle of it. And let me ask you, now that you did 3 days and you've come back, are we closer than we thought?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what?
Do you sense that things are a lot further down the road than you thought?
I do.
Yeah.
I think we're in the middle of something right now, right? It's almost like being in the eye of a storm.
Oh.
But we cannot see outside the eye, right?
Yeah.
But with a little shift, we get the full brunt of the storm. And the warnings have gone out for 5,000 years. They've already gone now. Everything has already been declared, but people are people, and but this one, there's going to be a bit of a jolt, a faith jolt. People are going to get that wake up call. They're going to get it.
Yeah.
Because I'll say it again, geologically, things are not going to hold together. They're not.
Yeah,
they're just not.
I'm of course, Jesus warned us that this would be the birthing pains. He told us it was going to be like a time like we've never seen before, nor ever will be. So, I mean, how many ticking time bombs do you? I mean, Cascadia's subduction zone, this fault line under Italy. You got Tonga down there, the super volcano. You got Yellowstone over here. Now we got Mount Spur about ready to blow. We got all those volcanoes along the west coast of California, all the way down to, you've talked about it, all the way into Mexico, all the way down into the Caribbean area. You got that big crack up there in the North Atlantic that you've talked about, that shoots kind of under New York and all that. So, and then I didn't even bring up, New Madrid. So, what do you think? Where are you the most concerned? If you had to pick one, I'm not trying to have you prophesy it, or I'm not going to hold you to it. Just if you had to pick one, which is the one around the world that you think is the closest, the most dangerous thing?
Rome.
Rome.
I mean, the fact that
okay, things have changed a lot, because I remember a time when Paul Begley gave the Pope a rap. That's one of the reasons I don't watch his sermons.
So it's so odd, because without the Pope, right, I would have picked Rome, but it just so happens that
he died,
and we knew he was gonna. In fact, it was it 3 weeks ago on your show, and we were kind of both convinced he was. That was it.
Yeah.
But some strange synchronicities with all that.
I did a show.
What number did they say he was? What number?
He's number 266. So the next one's 267, which is Malachi's number.
And what in the public side though? What number are they trying to say he is?
112.
What number you mean?
Which pope is he? What number pope is he?
112.
Well, he is
There's a number.
actually 266, but yeah, you're right, because 112.
I know there's a bit of confusion with
it's
that
112
whole
from St. Malachi's, yes.
Which is in the middle of the week. I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
I'm going to show you something that happened during my absence. Well, actually, this thing has been up there for some time, but it matches that. Weird, just weird. But I think this guy, the Pope, he wasn't the guy in the coffin, by the way. He was not. The guy in the coffin is going to upset everybody.
Is the guy in the coffin an American?
Okay. Yeah. It's just, it's sad. It's the sad thing. I mean, that's just a sad thing. But
here's something.
It'll start changing things,
I did on Sunday night. I did a show, and I called it Rome on the Brink. That's before he died. Okay. And I did it called Rome on the Brink, and talked about, that when the Pope goes, there's going to have to be, I even named a couple guys that was out, and then he died 3 days later, which was really weird. Okay. Really weird. I don't know what to say. I didn't get a prophecy he was going to die right then. But you and I talked about 3 weeks before he died.
We did.
So we kind of felt it, and
we did.
And here we are, and I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to pick somebody, but I have a feeling that there's a ushering in of something. I'm not sure. The world, how the world spins on this stuff.
Yeah. And he sat in a position of authority during the most controversial time ever.
Yes, he did.
I mean, if he with all the wokeism and all that ism stuff that he had to deal with, and that he had as he was over, that was a lot to deal with.
He endorsed
a lot.
That. I know.
Yes, that was a lot. That was a whole lot, Pastor. So that was a, and it seems like now, anybody who comes in right now, how in the world they're gonna, if they were to come in, I mean, and really be real, they would have to undo all of that.
Yep. Yep.
All of that. And the other side of that is the legal aspect of it, right? Because there are people right now under, well, let's just say they're being covered right now. If that covering comes off, they're going to jail. And that will be now that would look like a time of judgment for Rome that nobody ever saw before, right? But here we are.
Here we are. We're going to have to see what happens. And as Mike Honorable has just said, folks, Pope Francis is not the man in the coffin. The man that Mike saw in the coffin was an American, and it will shake up the whole world.
Yeah, it's disturbing. It will be disturbing. It will ignite some things. It's just not a good thing. And you know what I really thought, Pastor Paul? What is the deal with the? Just because the Lord, if the Lord gives you a dream or you have a dream or something like that, it's what the world is up with the stone steps. Are they really active there? They're conspiring to do something awful. You do know that, don't you?
I do know that. And so what do you think they're going to do? I mean,
oh my Lord, I tell you what, if they do what I think they're going to try and do, then it will be a civil war in this nation. Instantly. I mean, instantly.
It's obviously assassinate the orange guy.
And I'll say it again because from what I saw, the people in the streets, you could not comfort those people. There was no comforting.
Are you concerned that they're going to do something with the Supreme Court?
Pastor, I know some dirty folks, and I'm telling you, this election, I was in prayer with this election, and it was as if the Lord kept drilling into me, this is a time of betrayal.
Yeah.
And then I kept seeing, it's almost like you could see people as rats crawling under the ground, ready to strike everywhere. I mean, they were everywhere. So it is, we're and from what you see every day, it looks almost just like that. People waiting in the shadows to do what they have to do. Keep praying, folks. I'll say that. Keep praying because I personally know some of the things that are happening around the president, and it's very difficult to deal with. He may smile on the camera. I'm telling you that,
he's under a ton of pressure.
Stress is something else. And why? And people say, well, he's the Antichrist. The Antichrist is not going to be stressed.
No.
My goodness.
How can you be
the Antichrist? Is not going to be
First
stressed.
of all, you can't declare Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
You will not. That's right.
You won't even touch that.
No.
You can only. No man can call Jesus Lord except by the Holy Ghost. That's the scripture. Okay.
That's right.
He's proclaiming it every day he turns around. He's the most persecuted man for Christ in the world right now. Did you see the bruise that keeps showing up on that right hand of his? Is there something going on medically, you think?
Yeah, listen, it's when
okay. Gee, did I just hear that right?
He's up there in age, right? Yeah. He is. And I can tell you right now, the Lord is keeping him. He's keeping him. It's funny too, because the Lord will, there are Christians in this nation, right?
Yeah.
And the Lord will have in power who he has in power based on his word for us. All we have to do is pray. Continue to pray. Not that our will be done, but God's will be done in this land. Sincerely. The Lord he'll do exactly what he said he would do. But one day we're going to find out the truth. And when we do, there are going to be a lot of people out there that will regret the day they wasted time in men's affairs and not in their Father's business. Because we have an opportunity right now, because Trump is not anti-Christian. He's not.
No, he's not.
We have an opportunity to flourish in truth.
Yes,
I mean, in truth like never before. And so I think if we can kind of focus in that area, But we can do a lot.
We can do a
This
lot.
is that moment. I know people want a revival. I believe the tent for revival has been opened up. We're the ones that have to act on it. That's what I believe. I believe the Holy Spirit is right there, ready. Christ is, he's already made that call. People are primed for it, right? A bunch of more lies are about to be exposed, which will free up, some people's concepts and theories. Because right after that, it'll be absolute betrayal and deceit, like we never.
I got to ask you one more question before you go.
Yes, sir.
Klaus Schwab, just the same day the Pope died, Klaus Schwab resigned. Now, he told us he was going to be resigning, but he did it the exact day. That's a big deal because this guy is a new world order all the way. I mean, this guy is a global governance. The man that they took over was the former CEO of Nestle. I don't think he's the real heir apparent follow. Are you expecting someone to come in to be the leader who's really going to push this new world order agenda hard?
Pastor, it's I'll explain something real brief. In the criminal world, right? When one criminal dies, it seems like the abilities of that criminal mastermind is given immediately to another criminal.
It's like the mantle falls on him. Yeah.
Right. So in this case, when he died, Charles Schwab, his mentality, ideologies, and everything else, I personally believe, because they were they're by no means holy, I believe they were transferred. I believe the entity behind his mind is already settling in somebody else. That's what I believe.
All right.
That's exactly what I believe. So it's almost like a consolidation of spirits is happening, right?
Yeah.
When we knew the Pope was going.
Yep.
But I didn't tell you this one. He's one of four. Now I can't shake that one. He's one of four. He's just one of four. One of four different heads of state, you could say.
That are going to go.
That will be leaving. Yeah. I believe they're going to go pretty quick together. And when that takes place, it'll be a type of another type consolidation happening.
This is huge. This is huge. All right. Well, I've got my eye on a couple of guys. One is sick, and he may not make it long. But yeah, one of four. Okay, we're going to keep our eyes open on that, Mike.
Yeah.
Keep our eyes open. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. I'm so glad you're back. I hope everything heals up with your mouth, whatever you have.
Well, it keeps everything in place. It's I don't believe it's a big issue. They push the issue, so I just get it. Well,
that's all right. And everything's good. But you're back.
You asked about where the Pope's from. He's from Argentina.
Look, we appreciate all the information tonight. It's very, very good show. It's very eye-opening. And there's some big changes happening right now in the world. And I think I heard through what you're saying, I felt your energy that there's been some major things shifting. This thing in Syria, this new guy rising, he may be the Assyrian of the Bible. It looks like they're going to promote him from every direction, which is really weird because he's not right. He's a dirty dude. But what are they going to do? If they want to polish him up and make him something,
Elon's from South Africa.
That's right.
Elon Musk, South Africa.
And that means the whole
we got to watch.
Europe is shifting and the United States is waning, and there's a lot to pray about. Mike, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Okay, guys. God bless.
Keep you always. It's always an honor.
The honor is mine. It really is. It really is.